and the president of a shul of a synagogue were en route somewhere and they were kidnapped. I find it hard to believe, but it's true. They were hijacked, and the hijackers said, "Give me your money or your life." And they forgot their wallets. And so they said, "I guess we're going to have to give you our lives." And they said, "Well, we're going to kill you, but we're going to give you one wish each before you're killed." And so the rabbi says, "My dream has really always been to give a treatise, a sermon on the intricacies of Exodus versus Leviticus and Numbers." And the hijackers say, "Fine, how long does it take?" "About 2 hours." "All right, great." "Cantor, right, what's your wish?" "My wish has always been to give this Yemenite piece that the shul would never let me do, but it's coming from my soul. How long is it going to take?" "It's about a 2-hour song." "Fine, great." Gives to the president. They say, "So what's your wish?" "Kill me now." We've been shattering paradigms here at Shirat for 6 years now. And we have Cineplex, we have yoga, and drumming, and chanting, and traditional davening, and just all kinds of webcasting, uncharted territory. The one I'm most proud about is that this joke ain't our shul. Right? This does not describe the president's feeling towards the rabbi. Hopefully. It actually doesn't, because we don't have presidents, we have co-chairs. Right? And it certainly doesn't describe my feelings towards Emil or Emil's towards me. That much I know for sure. When I think about Emil, the words of my daughter Maya come to mind. When Maya's talking about somebody in her family, she'll walk up and she'll say, "Abba," she calls me Abba, "I don't like you, I love you." Right? And that's what I think of when I think of both Emil and Lily. I don't like you, I love you. And I can say that from a deep place, spanning more than the 6 years I've been here, because I'm sure most of you know, not all of you know, that Emil was my cantor in Omaha, Nebraska. When I was 12 years old, he came to Omaha, Nebraska, he and Lily, maybe a little before that, but I was getting ready for my bar mitzvah. And I remember my first memory of Emil was being in a line behind other 12-year-old boys, all lined up not for Haftarah lessons, but to punch Emil in the stomach. Right? Because he had and still has a six-pack. I got a one-pack, he's got a six-pack. And he did. He was a professional baseball player before he was a cantor. Did you know that? It was a farm team. It wasn't for a Red Sox farm team. It still counts, though, right? Because of the Dodgers. Anyways, I just remember this about my cantor. He was cool. He spoke to us. I mean, he was obviously in great shape. He's ageless. He's been 47 for like 30 years now. But he spoke. This was about him speaking to 12-year-olds, impossible bar mitzvah students like myself, on our terms. And I thought back on that, and I thought, this is the message of the Mishnah that says, "Aseh lecha rav," right? Find for yourself, acquire for yourself a rav. It's not a demotion, right? It's not a demotion. It's a rabbi, but it's a teacher. A rav is a teacher, and that's really what Emil was to those 12-year-old boys and girls, and hundreds and thousands of them, and adults as well. But he certainly has been to me. He's been my teacher in many ways. When I think of Emil, I think of a man who was a teacher to me, the way he comforts people. Me in particular. When my grandmother died 20 years ago, he officiated at her funeral in Omaha. And afterwards, he befriended my grandfather, and they would daven together almost every morning at Bethel Synagogue in Omaha, Nebraska. And when my father died 5 years ago, it was only fitting that it was Emil that came into my office and really comforted me through that process. And that's a Rav. That's a teacher at the deepest level. And that's what he's done for me. But that's what he's done for so many of you. I've watched and I've learned from my teacher the way he does Bikur Cholim, visiting the sick, and Nachum Avelim, comforting the bereaved, the mourners. He has a natural ability to just enter a room and to bring a sense of peace, a sense of shalom. Seriously, I go around saying that my mission in life is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I think I do more afflicting than comfortable. I think Neil and I work so well because he comforts the afflicted. Because he really does. Everything about him is like Aaron Avinu, Aaron, our patriarch, who, it says when he was in the presence of other people, he would just bring a sense of equanimity, of shalom. And anybody who knows Emil knows that defines him to a T. Emil is also a very complicated person in the sense of, the conservative Jewish mantra is tradition and change. There are very few people who can really hold both of those things simultaneously. But Emil is able to bring a sense of old world Yiddishkeit, a sense of Judaism, to a conversation, to a community, to the experience, and yet simultaneously, he doesn't hide behind that. And that's a rare thing. You know, whenever I have a wild, big idea, he always says yes. Sometimes I think he's biting his lip, but he's my teacher and he lets me stumble through it, and a few times I've stumbled through it, but he always says yes. That's his natural response to life, to say yes to opportunities. So he really has embodied tradition and change. And it always brings me great nachas to see him when he's davening in the back of the morning minyan on the weekdays with his iPad. Right? He's got his iPad. I mean, that just speaks volumes. He's got his iPad. Unfortunately, he breaks most of his toys, so I bought him a really nice case that he Steve Jobs says enough of breaking the iPad and all the other gadgets. He needs to learn how to take care of them and not just use them. But it's an amazing thing to watch somebody who embraces tradition, who embraces change. But I'll end with this. Above all of his skills and all of his ability to guide us through life, the end of the day, Emil Berkovitz is a mensch. Right? He is a mensch, and I think that's the universal description of him. I've never heard him in 30 years say an unkind word about anybody else, and I've never heard an unkind word spoken about Emil. And that to me says it all. We are truly lucky. I'm truly lucky because that Mishnah says, right? Find for yourself a teacher and acquire for yourself a friend. And the rabbis say that if it's the same person, you are infinitely lucky because there are very few people in our life who can be a teacher and can be a friend. And that's exactly what Emil Berkovitz has been to me, and I think he's been that to all of you, to so many of you for sure. I'm going to end with this. A Jew expresses his or her faith most fully, most joyfully when he or she sings out unreservedly. Anyone at any level can reach into the living waters of his or her soul and pour forth the living voice, the powerful tool to unlock the soul. This may be surprising since we know many great singers and cantors, obviously a rabbi wrote this, whose souls are far removed from God. Heaven help them. Melodies are one tool for conveying our feelings and our spiritual condition. We must use words to express feelings and thoughts, but even more, we must express ourselves with our voice. Singing, which is voice, has the power to arouse in the human very strong feelings, both of grief and of exultation. And feelings are the spark and stirrings of our soul. Music is a key to the soul. It opens us to our spiritual feelings, to our potential. And when I think of Emil Berkovitz, my teacher, my cantor, and my friend, I think of a man who has brought forth voice, heart, and soul. Not just his voice, heart, and soul, but the voice, heart, and soul of each and every one of us, certainly of myself in this room. So it's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's long overdue to celebrate this great man and this great woman, Emil and Lily. I love you.